Kindness Can, the podcast, with radio personality Jane Lindley Thomas and psychologist Paul Bushell. Because every act of kindness, no matter how big or small, can change lives. In this series, Jane and Paul hope to enrich your life by giving you practical tools on how to be kinder in your relationships with yourself, with those around you, at home, work, and in your community.
We are so delighted to welcome Cindy Norcott, CEO of Pro Talent and Pro Appointments, motivational speaker, author, founder, and chairperson of the Robin Hood Foundation. Also a very, very special friend of mine. Welcome, Cindy.
Hi there, Jane. It's so lovely to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Hi, Cindy. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with Jane and I today. I think anyone in Durban knows lots about the Robin Hood Foundation, or they've at least heard of it. But I know that July is always a special month for you guys, and we just can't wait to talk about some of the things that you're going to get up to.
Oh, thank you, Paul. I must say July is our favorite month. It's Mandela month. You know, we don't believe in just having a Mandela Day. We literally have this crazy, crazy busy July every single year, and this year is no different.
Okay, so what are you getting up to? I know that it's not going to be one or two things. If I know anything about you, hashtag unstoppable. What do you got up your sleeve?
Well, Jane, we actually were a little disappointed because obviously with the lockdown, the social lockdown, we were going to have teams working at the Sami Army for the whole of Mandela week. And we've decided not to do that just because of keeping people safe. Just making sure that people are socially distanced. So, we've got quite a few things up our sleeves at the moment. We're actually going into a number of creches, literally with chairs and tables and loads and loads of toys and equipment for creches. So we'll be doing, we did about 6 creches last week, and we'll be visiting probably another between 5 and 10 creches over the next 2 weeks. And we also have literally a storage unit full of biscuits to distribute to a large variety of charities. We've also placed a large order of staple food. Right now, with the lockdown, we're finding a few people are battling to feed their families, and we are getting calls via so many community organizations. So we are going to be doing a food drive next week as well. And, we've got a lot of friends who are doing things called Hoot and Loot, where they're asking their friends if they've got items to donate to the Robin Hood Foundation. And then they are going to their friends' houses hooting, and their friends will drop off their loot in their car. So it's one way of getting people to clear out their goodies and to donate them to us. And then those goodies get put into goggle bags, which go to the needy grannies and to various communities. We add staple foods, and then the grannies get these massive bags filled with clothing, shoes, linen, kitchen items, accessories, and then obviously some staple food. So we are just trying to create a movement of good, a movement of spare resources from those who have extra to those in need.
So, if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, I want to get involved, but I actually don't even know where to begin.
Okay, Jane, it's funny. There are so many things that people can do. I'm obviously not wanting to just chat from the Robin Hood Foundation point of view, but, it's funny. Last week I was sitting there thinking, gosh, I'm so disappointed we can't do the Sami Army. And I thought, what can I do? What do I have in my head, heart, and hands? And I sat there and I thought, I coach business owners all the time. What about offering 5 free coaching sessions online? And I put that on social media, and I've selected 5 business owners randomly. Hopefully by that act of kindness, 67 minutes times by 5 business owners, maybe I could have a tiny impact on their business. So my encouragement to people is to say, what do you have? What is your talent? What is your skill? And some people might say, well, I don't really know. It could be a simple thing like, if they wanted to get involved with Robin Hood, 2 things they could do. One is go through your house. Do you have 67 items you could donate? Items that have value, that are in good condition, but that you no longer need. They no longer bring you joy. Those items could be dropped off at one of our drop-off points, or if there's a lot of items, we can collect as well. Another thing we're doing is some people say, I don't have the time, I don't have the stuff, but they're donating 67 Rand. And at the end of July, we'll have 15 beautiful lucky draw prizes, which will also go through a randomizer app, and we will donate those prizes to 15 people who donate 67 Rand or more this month. But, if I look, Jane, there's so many ways that people can get involved. So, over the years, I had the one family, they make sandwiches every single Mandela month or Mandela week, and they take hundreds of sandwiches that they've paid for into the community and just hand out sandwiches. I know so many people who've said, we don't need gifts. So when they have a big birthday, I even had a couple who had a wedding, and they asked people to rather donate money for food parcels for us. Even last year at Christmas, I had quite a few families saying, we as a family don't need any Christmas presents. We will support Bless Her Granny. And there's also a lot of people have so many beautiful skills. So we have a lot of ladies who buy wool and then they crochet or they knit. They knit blankets, beanies, jerseys, booties. We've got people who are just knitting every single day. I know some people who knit 2 items a day for Robin Hood and they never stop. So I think that's a shout out to people like that.
But I suppose there's never been a time more than right now to absolutely start reconnecting with the kindness inside of yourself, which we all absolutely possess. And it doesn't have to be big things. It can be starting in really, really small ways. I'm sure over your years with Robin Hood, Cindy, you've collected some amazing stories of people connecting with that kindness inside of them and starting small and who knows, grows into something really big and meaningful.
Absolutely. I mean, it's Paul, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think now is a time for kindness. I think the world is actually so hurt and broken that if people can find a way to be kind, I think now's the time more than ever that people need it. I remember one day getting a ring at my doorbell, and there was a family. They had decided they'd been blessed and they bought nappies. They bought a carload. They had a station wagon. They just literally, as they opened the back door of the station wagon, all these nappies came out, and they just said they felt that we did love the babies and they know how expensive nappies were, and they put a budget aside and they just bought nappies. And when you've got new mums who are raising children that they can't afford, nappies are an absolute luxury. I also had another lady who was so excited by one of our feeding programs that she started feeding a few people in her neighborhood. I also heard a story of an old lady who died, and on her last day, on her deathbed, she literally finished a little jersey for us. These are people just sort of looking around and saying, how can I help? How can I make a difference? And I think while we're speaking on that, I think the people that possibly I admire the most are our volunteers. These are all people who have had great careers, great jobs, great businesses, and they choose to show up all the time. Every single week, they are there in the heat and rain, packing bags, cleaning up our storage, collecting things, literally just doing literal manual labor for hours on end for no pay, for no compensation. So, it's so awesome when you see like the heart of people. And then I think what I love as well, Paul, is we'll distribute gogo bags to poor communities, and there you'll see the grannies sharing, so they have so little, and they'll say, wait, these shoes are your size, or you need this, you take it. They're not bartering, they're not trading, they're just saying, you need this. And I think I've got a beautiful memory. A few years ago, we did a campaign called Choose Your Shoes. This campaign went viral. And I remember us going to Thousand Hills Community Helpers, and each granny was given a see-through, a transparent plastic bag, and we said, you can choose 5 pairs of shoes. And what I found was so interesting is most of the grannies, they never chose a pair of shoes for themselves. Every pair was for the children that they look after. And to me, that was such a beautiful sign of humanity. They were there to receive, but they were literally paying it forward with every single thing they chose.
Paulie, does it remind you of the story that Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman shared with us about getting to that war-torn place where only children were arriving to receive medical supplies? And it turned out that the elders in the village had, sent the small ones ahead. And I just find it so amazing that even right down to the nuts and bolts of our DNA as humans, that when we are up against the wall, we do have this most wonderful factory setting of returning to kindness.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've seen so many situations where families have no food and the children will be fed first. And we've heard terrible stories where the gogos will literally put sand into their maize to make it go further, or at night they'll boil water if they can't feed their children, and they'll give them hot water. And, last year was possibly the most harrowing year in my time with Robin Hood, which has been 16 years. One community worker, he called us, he sent us this voice note sobbing, saying, I think I've just saved somebody's life. He said this old granny was living in a little hut. She hadn't eaten for 4 days, and he arrived with this food parcel. And, and he said she was so weak. And he said, I think I've just saved her life, And it's so close to home. These are people within 3, 4, 5 kilometers of our homes who have nothing. So it's so important, I think, for us to be aware that poverty has a face and it has a name, and it is very, very close to home. And so often we don't see it, and then we think it's not there. But, I think obviously leading an organization like Robin Hood, on a weekly basis, we are receiving messages. I get messages from Facebook. I get messages on WhatsApp from people with photos of their kids saying, please, you have to help us. Even if it's just my children, I don't need anything, but can you feed my children? Can you clothe my children? So, it's been a very, very tough year for so many people. And also people who are asking on behalf of others. I'm fine, but can you help this family I know? And it's amazing how everybody stepped up. And I think it's been an interesting year. I mean, last year we did the soup kitchen for 16 weeks at Stoker's, and we had people from the community popping in with a pocket of potatoes, with butternut, people bringing spinach, people just saying, how can I help? I'm here. So it's amidst almost the worst of it, we also saw the best of it, if that makes sense.
But I think while you're talking, it seems like such an important ingredient to helping people activate their kindness and share their kindness, that when we start talking with one another about where we are at or where our neighbors at, or when we connect them with someone like the Robin Hood Foundation, when we start communicating, that energy flow just kicks into such a beautiful motion. And so I think for all of us to be conscious of that, we have to talk about this, talk about where we at, where our neighbors are at, and connect them with people like the Robin Hood Foundation, so that we can make our community work in this, kind of got this image in my mind of this flow of kindness. But talking about stuff is such an important part of kickstarting that process.
Absolutely, Paul. And it's funny, I sort of run our charity as I would run a business, and I'm all about there's no competition. We're all in this together. And we were so blessed. Last month, we got nearly R1 million worth of biscuits. We were able to help nearly 80 other organizations where we said, come to us, bring your vehicles. We will fill your vehicles with biscuits for your communities. And it was just such a beautiful opportunity to make a difference. And we recently got a container load of toys. We've also been able to say to creches, come and visit, come and get some toys. We will come to you as well. So, I think it's so important that this sort of mindset that we are all in this together. We are here to help each other. There's no sort of us versus them, but we're all making a difference and trying to do what we can with what we have. And I must say, in the 16 years that we've been going, our storage has never been empty. We tried to empty it. And as we all close those doors, the next carload or truckload will arrive. So we've definitely seen, I think, the best of humanity. But Paul, I think now's the time where people could say, okay, it's Mandela week or it's Mandela month. What can I do? What do I have? And I think it can extend even as simply as who in my family is in need. Maybe it means I need to make a meal for someone, or I need to make a call to someone who's lonely. If you work in a company, who amongst my team or my staff is in need? So I think it's starting where we are, using what we've got. It's not about running out there into the streets during a pandemic. I think it's more about actually what have I got that what kindness can I show? And I think when we start looking in those spaces, we start finding those opportunities like crazy.
I think that sometimes people may not even realize the kind of universal blessing that comes with showing kindness. I often feel like I'm the one that's receiving while I'm giving. I went to Cindy's birthday party not too long ago, and in true Cindy fashion, her invite was a picture of a dog with sunglasses on it saying, I've gone to the dogs. Please don't bring me any gifts, but rather bring dog food and stuff for the doggies. And it was just such a beautiful collection of people that came there to celebrate you. But while we were celebrating you, you were celebrating the dogs. And I just think that is just such a beautiful thing to see.
Absolutely. And Jane, we managed to collect over a ton of dog food from that event. So it really did create a lot of energy and momentum. And I think I was reading a book yesterday called "When is Enough Enough?" Like, what is enough? And the one comment that I read that really resonated with me was that if we want to become happier, and let's be honest, everybody does, the single most powerful route to happiness is to do random acts of kindness for others. Jane, I have a kindness journal that I fill in every week. What did I do for others that nobody knows about? And it's not about these things are never shared with the world, but these are just my accountability to myself. And I cannot tell you how many beautiful moments are in that kindness journal, things that I did for people, and I get such a kick out of it. And I think, it would be so exciting to see that movement carry on and be extended, where people, not just on Mandela Day, but maybe every week go, I'm sure I can find 67 minutes to make a difference. Who can I extend kindness to? And it's amazing. When you start looking, you will find it. You'll find the opportunities, and it's a little bit of a drug. It's exciting, it's rewarding, and it's an instant route to happiness.
Yeah, I think for me as well, being so mindful of wanting to raise children that are fueled by gratitude can sometimes be difficult, living in an instant gratification world, and not obviously wanting to terrorize my children with the dire situation of people eating out of bins and needing, very little to keep going. And we are so rich in so many ways. What advice would you give a mom? Because I know that you've got two beautiful daughters, but how do you instill gratitude from a soul level? I mean, maybe it's age appropriate as well, given that my kids are 10 and 8 respectively. Maybe it's easier to chat about this kind of thing, more deep dive when they're a little bit older. But it's definitely something that I struggle with, wanting to create or raise children that are gratitude inspired, not entitled.
Absolutely. I think sometimes it is about the experience of actually seeing the other side of the fence. So my children have, since they were little, have been to the creches, they've been to the goggle bag drops, they've been to Bless a Granny. Whenever we go, we have a conversation about the people that we've seen. And then I think to reinforce it positively, thank you for giving up your time. Do you see why, and letting them know the why. Why are we packing these bags? Who are they for? Why would people need these bags? And then afterwards just saying, well done, thank you. You've really made such a difference. And it encourages them. So as you say, it's not the deep, dark stories, but it's just, this is making a difference. And I think children need to understand that they don't have to wait until they're adults to make a difference. They can do that now. I remember the one Bless a Granny, this elderly lady received her gift and then she started crying, and I went up to her, I said, what is wrong? And there was a card written by a child just saying, Granny so-and-so, I love you, a love from, and you could see it was in a child's writing. And she said, this person loves me, and that was a handwritten card from a child. And, so sometimes we think it's got to be big things. It's often the little things. And then we've gone to the old age homes, and, many of those old folk never see children and they never see dogs. So we've taken dogs to the old age homes, but let me tell you, when they see a little child, all they want to do is hug them. There's something about touch, they often don't get touched or touch anyone. So, it's little things that we can do so easily to make a difference. Jane, years ago, I read a book called 29 Gifts, and there was a woman who was really ill, and she went to a healer who said, try and give something away for 29 days. And this book is a beautiful story about how she started feeling better and better and better. And every day she would look for opportunities to make a difference. And she gave away a pot plant. She gave away a bra. She made meals. And, she just suddenly started finding her joy. I think so many people feel unhappy and they look to medicate themselves. They look for short-term fixes. But I think a life of giving is a surefire way of creating massive joy.
You told me about that book, I don't know how many years ago, and I'm proud to say it sits in my very special bookcase. What a beautiful thing. But again, kindness and energy and giving comes with, I say it again, this universal blessing of purpose. It does become addictive. I've got to be honest. It's very, very seldom that you'll come to my home and not leave with something. May it be vitamins, may it be something off my shelf that you've admired. For me, that is the greatest joy, is to give. That for me is such a kick.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing here because my latest treasure from Jane is my Louis Vuitton face mask. And I love it.
Yeah,
Oh, no. And I don't know, Paul, I've realized in the last year, that so many people have spent more time at home than ever before. And they've looked around their homes and gone, my gosh, I've got so much stuff. And, I love that saying, if having stuff doesn't make you happy, try giving it away. And I think, if you think about it, some people sit with hundreds of items in their cupboards that they'll never use. But they've never, ever experienced walking into a shack where somebody doesn't even have a cup. And, when you do that, you start realizing, gee, I can live on so much less. And what I have in my house could bless 50 families or 20 families. So about a year ago, I thought, let me try and take 1,000 items out of my house. And it was very easy. I'm ashamed to say it was very easy. So many of us are caught up in this consumerism. We go shopping as a pastime. Maybe we could change it. It's better. It's more socially distant not to shop right now, but also to say, what can I pass on to somebody else who will use it? And I think what we've done with Robinhood is there's a lot of transparency in everything. So you donate to us, we put it directly into the hands of the recipient. And it's funny, we've been going 16 years and we've built relationships with church workers, community workers, social workers, and other admirable organizations. So when we work with them, we know everything is going into the hands of the people who need it the most. So I think Mandela Month is a wonderful time just to remind ourselves that, kindness can make a difference. And each one of us has within us this reservoir of kindness that we can actually extend to others. And I would love to encourage people to be resourceful and creative this year. Just because you don't want to leave your house or you shouldn't leave your house, it doesn't mean that you can't make a difference. And I think even young kids, there are young kids who are brilliant at maths and science and English. They could tutor somebody online. They could, there's so many things they could do that if they apply themselves to it. So I would love to see this sort of movement of creativity and initiative and excitement. And I must say, from my post last week where I said I'll do 5 business coaching sessions, I've had people offering to do motivational talks. I've had people saying they're going to offer somebody to come for a treatment at their spa. And I think it's wonderful. It's lovely to see people going, actually, I want to extend kindness to another human. I think it's what we're born to do.
Well, I think Nelson Mandela obviously is celebrated for being a great man who did very, very big, great things. But I think when you often listen to stories of people who met with him, communities who he visited, it's so often his small gestures that really had the biggest impact on people's lives. And I think that that's such an encouragement and a reminder to all of us that don't hold out to be kind when you can only do big, big moments. Start with the really small stuff because it adds up really quickly.
Paul, you're absolutely right. I've heard so many people say that when they met him, he made them feel special. And I think that's the human need right now. So many people are isolated, they're lonely, and they feel that who they are doesn't matter. A couple of years ago, I went to one of the old age homes for Bless a Granny, and I walked in with our coordinator, and this gentleman stopped. He was so excited. He thought that our coordinator was his daughter. He hadn't seen her for 4 years. And there we were, all in tears. He hugged her and he said, I'm so sorry. I thought you were my daughter. And she said, well, today I'm your daughter. We had tea with him and he told us some stories. He was in tears. He was crying. And, just that time, just that acknowledgement of we understand you're lonely, such a small thing, but it just made such a difference to this old man. And I don't ever think it is about the big things. It's always the little things.
Since how can people get hold of, if they want to find out more about the Robin Hood Foundation, how they can get involved, where can they go?
They can email us at info@robinhoodfoundation.co.za. We're also very active on Facebook. So if they just look up the Robin Hood Foundation, they will find us there. And we share about all our activities and opportunities. And as soon as the pandemic is under control, we will have a week of Sami Army where people make sandwiches for about 2 hours and we make loads and loads of them. And we'd love the public to get involved with that as well. But my encouragement to people is just, what is something that makes your soul soar? And then that's kind of an indication that that's an area that you you have a passion for, whether it's animals or sick people or feeding people, whatever it is that you feel led to do that thing. And as Paul was saying, it's never the big things. Often it's that little thoughtful gesture that just makes somebody's day. Jane, a few years ago, I was running a big conference for Entrepreneurs for Africa. I was very stressed, and a friend of mine arrived that night, at the end of the conference. It was like 6:30 at night. I was absolutely shattered, and she brought me bobotie. I stood in my driveway crying my eyes out at that thoughtful gesture. And, it's funny how the little things can just make somebody's day. And I think when somebody's experienced kindness from somebody else, they want to pay it forward. It's sort of in our DNA.
Well, I don't even know how to put it into words of how much of an impact you've made on my life and how blessed I feel to have you a phone call away. I remember going through some of the darkest days in my life, and you always being there, and still you will continue to spontaneously drop me a message saying, how can I help you? Is there anything I can do for you? And I get a bit teary talking about it, because I don't think you realize what an impact you have in our community and how many people look up to you and make us want to be better people. So Cindy, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Jane. And thank you for the opportunity to chat today. It really means a lot to me. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, you're so welcome, and good luck for all the amazing, wonderful things you're getting up to in July. We wish you so well.
Thank you very, very much. July is our best month, and this year will be no different. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Go well.
You've been listening to Kindness Can, the podcast. Find out more at kindnesscan.co.za.